Welcome to the Only Words podcast, where poets and poetry lovers talk about the role of the art in their lives and the modern world.
Hello everyone, my name is Kimberly. I go by Hibiscus, Hibiskos on Instagram and Threads. I also have a secondary Threads account where I started a new collection of poetry, and that is under Kim Over the Rainbow. I've been in love with poetry my entire life. I started writing when I think I was about 14, 15 years old, and I've been pretty much obsessed with it ever since. And so being an English language arts teacher is just a wonderful career for me, considering I get to be around language and literature all day. Poetry is just a unique way of expressing the world, the figurative language that's involved. There's so much freedom and creativity in it, and that's why I just love poetry. And I love how it sounds. The rhymes, the assonance, consonants, the meter, the flow, all those things just make it just musical and beautiful. And I love it. I wanted to read my poem Sunrising because I was thinking one day about how in our language so many things are nouns. And nouns are sort of inanimate. They don't have a lot of motion or action to them. So I was thinking about how being a woman, it would be better if we were a verb, more animated and strong. And so I wrote Sunrising. And I thought the perfect companion piece would be Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. It sort of follows a similar theme of just the strength and resilience of people, women especially, and those who have faced oppression. So those were the poems I chose to read. I hope you enjoy them. Sunrising by Hibiscus. I'd like to be a verb as powerful as healing instead of a noun without any feeling. I don't want to be fire. I'd rather ignite, not just bright and hot, but burning through light. I don't want to be clouds. I'd rather be flight, not fluffy or soft, but fighting the night. Not just a woman, a friend, or anything inanimate while contemplating. I don't want to be the sunrise. I am sunrising. Still I Rise by Maya Angelou. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I'll rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns with the certainty of tides, just like hopes springing high, still I'll rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries? Does my haughtiness offend you? Don't you take it awful hard, 'cause I laugh like I got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words, you may cut me with your eyes, you may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. Does my sexiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise that I dance like I got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs? Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise into a daybreak that's wondrously clear. I rise, bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave. I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise.
I am a poet and a writer, and I write under my pen name, The Brooklyn Poet. Poetry has been one of the most meaningful parts of my journey. I've always been drawn to poetry because of its depth, the way it allows someone to take an emotion, a moment, or a truth and shape it into something that can be felt by another. Words hold so much power, and over time I've come to understand just how deeply they resonate. In the past 3 years, I've studied poetry on an entirely new level, and it has changed me. It has given me a greater understanding of myself, the world, and the people around me. Poetry makes me feel seen, understood, and connected. It's a reminder that even in solitude, we are never truly alone. Someone somewhere has felt this too. To be a poet is to be an observer of the world, to notice what others may overlook, and to turn even the smallest moments into something meaningful. It's about capturing the in-between, the pauses, the unspoken, the emotions that don't always have a place in day-to-day conversation. Being a poet means embracing both vulnerability and strength, knowing that words can heal, challenge, and ignite something powerful within us. And so why does it matter? Poetry matters because it is one of the purest forms of expression. It transcends time, language, and background, offering people a way to communicate what's in their hearts. It has the ability to inspire change, provide comfort, and remind us of our shared humanity. In a world that moves so fast, poetry asks us to slow down, to listen, to feel. I wrote this poem recently, and I've always loved saying endlessly after saying I love you. I have loved the word endlessly for a long time. It explains the way that I feel about love, that love to me is without end or limit, infinitely. Something that continues without stopping forever, in a way that seems to have no conclusion or boundary, something that goes on and on without reaching a final point, in an abundant or limitless matter, overflowing, boundless, without restriction. For me, endlessly represents love that doesn't fade, connection that lingers beyond time, and emotions that remain infinite in their depth. It's the way I love, the way that I write, and the way that I view the world, without limits, without an expiration, always expanding, endlessly. So here's this poem. Endlessly. Love is not measured in fleeting moments. It is not counted in days or promises. It is felt in the spaces between, in the quiet knowing, in the way that two souls recognize each other before words ever form. It does not take, it does not diminish. Love is an addition, a light that expands when met with another. Two flames, never stealing, only burning brighter side by side. And when love is true, when it is written into the fabric of who we are, it does not disappear. It stays, it lingers, woven into time, into memory, into the air between us. Even when distance stretches, even when silence falls, love, real love, does not end. It lives and it remains endlessly.
Hi guys. So my name is Fortune Main, and I'm from Nigeria. I'm a Nigerian poet. I'm an author. I have 2 poetry books to my name, and I want to first say I'm thankful. Thanks so much to Only Words for having me on this podcast. To celebrate National Poetry Month. I'm excited to come here to speak a little bit about poetry and what it has been for me. Okay, being a poet means a whole lot to me, you know, beyond being able to express myself. Being a poet gave me the ability to search for myself, it gave me that permission to go on self-discovery and to look for things, to find more about me, more about my identity, more about how I came, what my being is, beyond what anybody describes me or tries to identify me as. So that's what poetry has done for me. Poetry has deepened my insight, gave me very keen eyes to view the world. It places me in a state of awareness, constant awareness, to notice things that you wouldn't see with your eyes, and it gave me very strong discernment. Poetry gave me very strong discernment, to discern things and write on it, and yes, it gave me a heart to feel. That's one of the main things poetry is going to do for you. The ability to fit in your foot in different shoes. You become water. You take shapes of people's stories, of people's lives, of people's culture, and it gives you that permission to write about it, even when you didn't experience it yourself. So that's the beauty of poetry, and that is what poetry means to me. That is what being a poet means to me. Okay, what I love most about poetry is beyond that it gives me the ability to express myself in few lines. What I love most about it is that it gives me a mental picture. It just gives me a picture of what the situation is. It just gives me that picture, and that picture makes things clear. It brings clarity. It brings clarity and awareness for me. And that's the major thing that it does for me. Just that clarity, it just gives you that picture to explain a story, to explain something that has happened, or to explain a scene. Poetry gives you that clarity. You just get to see your thoughts. You get to see your thoughts in pictures, and that's the beauty of poetry, and that is what it does for me, and that is what I love most about it. Okay, poetry is important in our world for many reasons, and like for writers, majorly people write poems to convey, to express themselves, and to convey complex emotions, to try to understand how they are feeling in the quest of looks in the quest of searching for how they're feeling or what they're going through. They write poetry, so it gives us that emotional release. People tend to use poetry to just release emotionally their thoughts and everything, their feelings, everything inside them, and poetry brings therapeutic benefits. It can elevate your mood, it can improve your mood. Poetry brings perspective. There are many things poetry brings. It brings different perspectives to the world. It enriches our lives, and it brings beauty and joy and wonder. You just get to read a piece of a piece of writing, and it blows your mind. You have never thought about a certain topic in that way it was written. That is the power of poetry. to celebrate the diversity in life. And the diversity is the different perspectives that different people have, different cultures have. You get to read poems from different cultures, and you get to appreciate the diversity and the uniqueness, to how people think, and to the wisdom they bring into the world. The wisdom, the knowledge, the truths. Poetry brings revelation. Through poetry, people get to reveal a lot of things, from different areas of life, and that is one of the major reasons why poetry is important. Poetry has always been here. For poetry to die, all life has to go, and for us to still be in this world, and for the fact that there's still life, there will always be poetry, because the human emotion is complex. The things we go through are very complex, and poetry is there to ease our confusion. Poetry is there to bring us to clarity of whatever situation we find ourselves, and to come out of it. I've come out of poetry. I've come out of depression through poetry. I've had to handle trauma and to tackle trauma and come out of it. And I did that by writing poems on it. I did that by searching deep, and writing poems on it. So poetry does a lot of things in the world today, and that is why it's still relevant and it's still important. It's just that people just use poetry in different mediums. You don't just have to write it. People, musicians write poems in their songs, and rappers write poems in their songs, and spoken word artists too. People just express themselves. The funny thing about life is that people think poetry is just one special niche for certain people. No, it's not. Once you have the ability to express yourself, to talk about something that it's concerning, to touch a wound. Once you have the ability to touch a wound, you're writing poetry, and that is poetry. Simply, and I want people to understand, and for the younger generations that are coming, and for people that are going to come to see poetry and enjoy it, it's not just something to enjoy. In as much as you're going to enjoy it, it's not just something to enjoy. It's something that is going to really help your life greatly. It has the ability to improve your it has the ability to improve your mood. It has the ability to improve your intelligence. It will improve your brilliance. Clearly, it will improve your thinking. The way you think is going to change, and that can help you. And poetry can help you in your individual lives, in what you do personally, in other areas of life that has nothing to do with poetry. Poetry is everywhere. It's going to help you in everything, and that is why it's important in our world today. I have a poem of mine to share. I call it All at Once. So it goes this way. All at once, I'm wailing and healing, shedding tears and shedding skin, aching and sprouting, bleeding and blooming. Yeah, that is it. And I wrote this poem at a certain time when I couldn't just understand what I was going through in life. it was so it was so crazy, and that is what poetry does. It gives you the freedom to just think that, is this thing, am I the only one experiencing it? Like I was experiencing good and bad things all at once. Or I was shedding tears and shedding skin. I was bleeding and I was blooming. Two opposite things were going on in my life at the same time. I was experiencing goodness And on one side of my life I was winning, and the other side of my life I was failing. At the same time, it was crazy to me. I I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. It was all strange for me. I felt like, am I the only one experiencing this? And in finding a way to describe how I felt, I came up with this piece. That was how I wrote this poem, all at once. So yeah, that is it. It's crazy. It was a crazy experience then, and this is also what poetry does for us. We get to preserve the moments we live, as we go through life, each year, each season, from seasons to seasons. I've written 2 books. I've written 2 collections of poetry. I have my third book coming up soon. I have my third book in progress right as we speak. So it helps me to, poetry helps us to preserve our moments. You just get to preserve when life was crazy for you, or when life was good, or when you lost a loved one, or when your wife gave birth, or when you had a child, your birthdays, your graduation, when you got a job or when you got sacked. The feeling, the moment, the feelings you have each moment, you know those are what those are where poetry lives. It lives in the moment. You experience horrible things, and you experience tragic things, and you get to write about it, and you preserve it for a lifetime. And it's timeless. It lives beyond you. You leave this world and your poetry is still alive. I wrote a piece about that too, in my new book, in my coming book, and I hope whoever gets to hear this, I want you to check on my third book. It's going to blow your mind, and the title of the book is going to be "To Walk Where There's No Path," and I'm not going to speak much on it because it's just still in progress. But when you get to check on me, or just get the book, because the things I'm going through right now, the things I'm writing, I'm dropping down, is going to be very, very great, and yeah, that's it. And thank you so much. Thank you for the listeners, and thank you for having me on this podcast. I hope to be back here another time. It was a pleasure getting to speak with you, and getting to talk about poetry a little bit. There's a whole lot to talk on poetry, but for now this is what we can talk about, and I'm really, really honored to be featured in this podcast, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much.
My name is Marianne Bernardo, and what I love most about poetry is that it gives us the ability to connect to each other as humans, to share reflections of our lived experience and the issues occupying space at the forefront of our minds, as well as what blooms in our hearts. I also love that poetry is a craft. It allows us to go back again and again to any given poem and make edits, as well as the ability to see how we've grown both as writers and as people. What I love about being a poet is that it's political and can be a means of resistance, an art form that gives voice to the voiceless, bringing to light issues that are current in our world, affecting humanity and the life of our planet. Poetry matters because it gives us a space to breathe, to self-reflect, and to heal. It is a means in which we can come together and raise our collective consciousness, making life a little easier and better for us all. This poem is titled Yellow, Blue, and Brown. Pathways of water shimmer in lucent dreams. The breath beneath voice becomes the music calling life to itself. Marbled words channel summer rain, and the sky is a river. Waves of habit crash into bones craving sleep. And I remember when laughter came easy, and we were graceful as flowers falling into each other. Now we are knotted, yellow, blue, and brown, bruised from the inside out.
My name is Riley Richards. I've been calling myself a poet for a little over a decade now. I taught poetry, creative writing, and political writing at Uzhhorod National University in Ukraine. My MFA in poetry is from Fairleigh Dickinson University, and this summer I will be moving to Tallahassee to join the Florida State University community to pursue my PhD in poetry. As always, buckets of gratitude to the poet M.E. Forbes for inviting me back and for passionately engaging with poetry and helping others do the same. Subspecie Eternitatis was the subject of my master's thesis and remains my biggest philosophic, artistic, existential, and poetic obsession. Literally, under the aspect of eternity, Subspecie Eternitatis as a method of thinking, or even as a method of ontological perception, is concerned with parsing out and embracing, first and foremost, what is universally, objectively, and eternally true. See the works of Baruch Spinoza. In practical terms, Subspecie Eternitatis is concerned with parsing out, embracing, and enacting our place as human beings in existence and our relationship with that capital T truth. It is the perspective of the infinite, of the reality beyond us in the physical plane. One could say that it's God's perspective. Right now, at this very moment, at 8:57 p.m. on a Sunday in March, I am in the middle of reading 2 different books. I promise this is a relevant non sequitur. The first is called Attention Equals Life, The Pursuit of the Everyday in Contemporary Poetry and Culture, by Andrew Epstein. A book-length study and treasure trove of insight on the quotidian in poetry and, as you may be able to infer from the title, the value of paying attention. First, I'll just say, read the book, and then I will highlight one moment from his introduction to the book that captured me and added a new lens through which I understand the following chapters and even the rest of life. He quotes Robert Haas, quoting Simone Weil. Attention, Simone Weil said, is prayer, and form in art is the way attention comes to life. The teleology of art, but especially of poetry, is not only that it creates beauty, or even that it creates meaning, but that it develops our attention, and by extension our reverence and love. In her introduction to the poetry anthology Before the Door of God, my favorite poet, Kimberly Johnson, says, as it has evolved over the centuries, lyric poetry is a mode of writing that imitates the movements of a single mind as it negotiates a set of concerns. This seemingly self-evident definition cuts through to the simple meaning of what it is to be a poet, which is to hone the craft of writing and reading so that we may better understand, appreciate, and navigate the world around us, and finally to situate us subspecie eternitatis. What greater set of concerns is there than to run after the truth? Elsewhere, in her book Made Flesh, Johnson observes that devotional poetry, though personally I would expand this to all of poetry, reflects thematically the concerns and challenges that follow from an epistemological system whose primary stakes are in the objective reality of the perceptually absent, the sublime, the eternal workings of the soul, and all those ever intangible aspects of worship that make belief necessary, the material evasions to which faith responds scripturally as the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. I've said before that poetry is the closest thing to the language of eternity. Even if the poem is concerned only with the mundane, with the physical, temporal, and finite, it transcends by the very nature of the art and the act of poetry. By its attention and its emotional truth, it reaches in some way for subspecie eternitatis. It becomes worship and prayer. The other book I'm in the middle of is H.L. Hicks's new poetry collection, Beckoned Back by Hell-Bent Blackbirds. Not only does Hicks possess one of the most humble and generous spirits I've ever encountered, his poems are a lodestar. In closing, I will read the opening poem of this astonishing collection. It is called, "In the Orchard, What Had Not Fallen Was Certain Soon to Fall." In some places, if you listen, you hear leaves fall one by one. No one needed Eden more than my brother needed Eden. No one listened harder than I did for the footsteps of God. No one was lonelier, ever, than when I and my brother ventured the orchard together. His world one, mine another. I wondered what it's like to fly, he what it's like to have to. Sky and orchard kept their syntax secret, but their words were birds. From the windows of our house, we couldn't see the migrations. Inside, we never heard those callings forward and callings back. But outside, alone in the orchard, I heard, I saw, I knew. It was as if above the orchard, the wide flyway narrowed to make every silhouette and cackle crackle over me. Double-crested cormorant cuttered north, snow goose slooping south, yellow rail, piping plover, short-billed marsh wren, black-polled warbler. I know they're unreliable, but I need some prognosis. A persimmon tree bigger than Bunyan shaded the backyard. I fell once from a branch and broke my left ankle so badly that my foot digressed 90 inches. The doctor who said it promised good as new, but I skew to the west to this day. Thanks once again to Forbes, tremendous thanks to Hicks and Johnson, and thanks to everyone listening and everyone who invests in their relationship with subspecie eternitatis and all the earthly things that get us there, like poetry. Thank you for listening to Only Words. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review, check out other episodes, share this podcast with anyone you think may enjoy it, and most of all, please do join us again next month for another conversation about poetry. Until then, live compassionately, love always, and read way more poetry. Thank you.